Okay, good morning. We are continuing Kuf Tzadi Zayin. We're just going to point out a couple stuff related to Seif Bet, where we left off. Okay, so one thing that was not clear yesterday will remain not completely clear, because it's not completely clear. The topic of a Basula, a virgin, versus a Almana, or a Grusha, a woman who's already been with a man. The poskim point out an almana or a grusha from kiddushin, but she never actually did the nesuin with the man, has the same din as a basula because she is a basula. Anyway, so it means really basula versus a beula, to be more exact. But okay, that's the wording. The almana is what's the word that's used in Chazal. It happens to be so that we learned briefly yesterday. There's a difference between a basula and an almana when it comes to in order to can one be with them for the first night on Shabbos or not. So what is that all talking about? Now, as far as makkah, so it's a whole issue if it's mutter or not, but we paskin it's mutter. So there's not an issue of makkah of the dam besulim. The issue that comes up is kinyan. That's really what it's all about. The whole issue that was mentioned and brought up was the issue of making a kinyan. What do we mean by a kinyan? A kinyan is because by the couple becoming married through nesuin, not kiddushin. That's actually not what's concerning us with being together Friday night. That would be another issue. We don't do kiddushin on Shabbos. But now the issue is there's a further kinyan, not of the man to the woman per se, but of the work from her, the salary, Maisayadeh, whatever she, or Yerusha, whatever she gets afterwards, once she's married, then because the husband supports her, then that goes to the husband. So there is a kinyan of her maisim, of her, her profits from her work. That's the kinyan we're talking about. So when does that take place? So by a besula, it takes place by chuppah. And then again, this is not for now, and this is already getting to be too long, but the whole issue of there's different possibilities of what chuppah may be. We'll save that for Ebenezer. But whatever it is, whatever the chuppah is, that's what is koveya, the nesuin for a basula, and a kinyan on maaseh yadeh, on the prophets. So that's for a basula. For an almana, or really for a beula, what is it? It's the kinyan of doing, again, all of these things. It happens to be a whole machlokas. If you go back to the levels of the Gemara and Rishonim or Achronim, if there is even a difference between basula and almana, but we're not going there. Halacha l'maisa and Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah, whatever, it's pretty pashut. Everyone agrees. And so what we're saying is, so what are we saying? By an almana, it's different. By an almana, the kinyan doesn't take place by chuppah. The kinyanim take place by yichud shira'ui labia. There doesn't have to be bia mamish. Right? Again, not everyone, but most of us agree that. That means that is the halacha. It doesn't have to be bia mamish, but it needs to be yichud, a private yichud, without kids in the room. It has to be a proper yichud shira'ui labia. Fine. So therefore, if she already, so when it comes back to what are we saying? If she already had a basula, already had chuppah on Erev Shabbos, then on Friday night, by having bia, there's no further, let's say, because it was a chuppah Niddah, and then she went to the mikvah afterwards. On Friday night, they could be together, because when they're together with the bia or yichud, it didn't accomplish anything as far as kinyan. Didn't accomplish anything except for the couple to be together for the first time. But when it comes to an almana, it's important to make sure she has yichud haraya libia on Friday, if it's mutter. Otherwise, she has to wait. She can't do a Friday night for the first time because that creates kinyanim. And again, all these kinyanim, it's true, these are all issues so derabanan, but they're all kinyan on Shabbos, we say is asr derabanan. So that applies over here as well by almana. Now, again, it's not so clear, but why is there a difference between a basula and almana? It's not so clear, but that is the halacha psuka. And again, a couple possible explanations for it. Again, it's not so clear. One is that Chazal were koveh. Again, it's not so clear among the Achronim. Certainly not anywhere in the Gemara. It's the whole chiluk even is not even in our Gemara. It's comes from a Yerushalmi. But anyways, what could be the difference? Because Chazal were koveya a chuppah as a requirement, part of the nesuing process for a besula. But some say Chazal never made a chuppah for an almana. There is no such thing. If we do a chuppah at the wedding, it's just like a tekes. It's like a little, ceremony because we're used to seeing it, and it's nice to have. But there's really no big deal, and it's not necessary. It's hard to. I can't. It's hard for me to quote who says this. If you read up in the sugya, it's what comes out. Everyone says almana means beula. There's no one who says otherwise, as far as I know. Anyways, and all the poskim agree that this is the halacha, except it depends how you understand the Gra. The Gra says there's no difference between the two. The Aruch HaShulchan wants to say there's no difference, but he says this is the halacha psuka. Anyway, we're digressing, but I just want to point out what is the difference, and save this, take notes, keep this for when you get to Even Ezer, because it's not going to be clear over there either. But the halacha, so what could be the main difference is they were never koveya a chuppah. There's an expression like ein chuppah le'almana. So what does that mean exactly? But anyways, it could be there is no such halacha of making a chuppah. So if there is no such thing as a chuppah by an almana, Chazal can't be koveya the kinyanim, the halacha of a kinyan. The chalus of a kinyan cannot begin if there is no chuppah to begin with. It doesn't exist by an almana mikaridin. So therefore, it has to take place by yichud. That's one pshat. Yeah. And then another possible pshat is by, let's say, there is a chuppah by an almana, right? Some of the posts can point out there is. It's just, how do you understand that expression that I just mentioned in Chazal? But anyways, bottom line, there is a chuppah by an almana, but as we all know, a chuppah by a basula is just not the same. The first wedding of a girl is just not the same as a second wedding, especially if she's been be'ula. That's really the chiluk. So if it's the first time she's going to be with a man, she's never had yichud with a man before, it's a bigger deal for her, the chuppah. And it's a bigger deal for the whole community, the family, the friends. More people make an effort to come. They prepare more. It's a much bigger thing in the tzibur as well, both in the eyes of the tzibur, both in her eyes. So it's a much bigger deal. By an almana or by a be'ula, the chuppah is not such a big deal. So when does Chazal establish that the kinyan makes a big deal on something that's more meaningful for a woman who's already been with a man before? It's at least yichud with a new man is obviously a big deal, but being under a canopy is not as a big a deal. Whatever. I think that suffices for our purposes. And you're not going to get much more on Even Ezer on that one because there's not much more to say, but that's okay. Also, just to clarify, is there a mitzvah for a woman to go to the mikvah the first night possible? So that happens to be a machlokus. Is it considered a mitzvah, mamish, to go to the mikvah? So we paskin not intrinsically no. Therefore, a woman does it. Right. If there's exactly. So that's a machlokus in the Rishonim, and Lamaisa we hold it's not a mitzvah. That's why a woman doesn't go to the mikvah if it's Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av. Right? She waits till afterwards. I believe the same by Avelis. So that's because it's not integral. Could be there used to be when it's machlokas if it is, and it could be it was by Tara. But anyways, Lamaisa nowadays, it's not. If we start worrying about Tuma and Tara, it might be. However, if her husband is in town, so then we call it the little mitzvah, or Tevilas mitzvah. We call it that because there is a mitzvah for her to go. It's not intrinsic, but if she can be with her husband, we call it a mitzvah. As Shulchan Aruch, I think we read it already inside, calls it because of Pirya Virivya. And other posts, right, reproduce, and other poskim also point out it's just a mitzvah of ona. Coupled to each other have an obligation to be with each other, besides the shalom bayit. And even we know, even by a woman who's too old to get pregnant, it's still a mitzvah. And besides the shalom bayit issues, it's also, according to El Zohar and the Chida and others point out that it creates holy souls in Shamayim. And even though it doesn't get, we don't see the kids here, it still creates something, and it has an important purpose. And just interesting, it's a little hard to understand, but the Gemara in Eruvin Samach Gimel just point out that Yehoshua was punished for one night for not being Mekayim Pirya Verivya. Because what happened was he was Mevatel Torah. He was a Mevatel Torah. So then he decided to learn Torah all night. And he got, for the whole tzibur, to learn Torah all night. Because he got punished for not learning. And then when he stayed up all night to learn with everybody, he caused everyone to be Mevatel Pirya Verivya. So then he got punished for that as well. But that's, anyway. But the point is, we see that it's important, and it's very chamur for a couple to punish each other through not going to a mikvah, for her not to go, in order to punish the other one. Anyway, so that's, but we're not going to get too much into that topic. So if a husband is in town, it is a mitzvah to go in the proper time, even Friday night. If the husband is not in town, well, the poskim also point out that even if a woman cannot have tashmish with her husband, but he's in town, she should definitely still go to the mikvah, because there's still other, they can touch, other emotional expressions that could be permitted. Like, let's say one of them is sick and they're not able to do tashmish, but they can still be together. It's important to point out. They point out to avoid leading to shechva zera levatala. But that's, but anyways, in general, she should go to the mikvah, no question. Right. Just to raise the question, different poskim have a little bit of a different leniency, but in general, just because one is a little bit embarrassed to go to the mikvah, like they're going to be somewhere, they're company, they're going out, whatever it is. So sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not okay. Like, you can't always be, sometimes you have to have a little bit of thick skin and not be too embarrassed. We don't publicize when we go to the mikvah, but it doesn't mean we have to overly make sure nobody in the world knows about it. But whatever, I'll just leave it as a topic, Sheilat Chacham. What should one do, pushing it off one night or not? So it depends on the case. Sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's not. Let's see, on this, anything else you wanted to point out? I'm not sure if we're going to see it again inside, so I'll just point out that when it comes to going to the mikvah on Friday nights, the halacha for the Sfardim is women should always go. Doesn't matter if Baila Ba'ir or not, doesn't matter. She should always go that night, even if it's Friday night. She should always go, right? The first night possible. Yeah. I don't know if I would use the word across the board, but in general, by Sephardim, they would say for sure go, always. Even if the husband is not in town, she should still go, even if it's Friday night. But by Ashkenazim, I believe in general, they say not to go Friday night if the husband is not in town. Again, little nuances, ask your Rav, look into the sugya more. But in general, if there's no reason for her to go because her husband's not in town, on Friday night, they generally push it off. Because the issues of not bathing on Shabbos and schita, the general Ashkenazim are a little bit more machmer when it comes to swimming on Shabbos or Yantiv. Just as an aside, we're not going to get into that. But so anyways, just to avoid the issues of looking like a tikkun on the woman, And in order to avoid issues of schita or a general gzera of swimming, so therefore, I mean, that general gzera of swimming is really comes mainly from schita. But whatever it is, just to avoid all that, in general, the Ashkenazim do not go on a Friday night if there's no husband in town. But otherwise, they would go. And we're going to discuss later on, I believe it's in Kuf Tzadi Tet, a little bit more about doing chafifa during the day. Ashkenazim are a little more strict, but based on Rashi, I believe. But we're going to review and get to there when we get there. That there's more of an Indian to do chafifa and bathing dafka during the day. But whatever, if it needs to be at night, we do it at night. And we'll see that more. And how to deal with Shabbos, I think we'll save for Kuf Sarit Tet, and how to actually, what's the best way to deal with it. Okay. Also, the issues of, just to bring it out, Korban Natanel points out there's no gzera of merchatzaos for a mikvah. So therefore, women do go also on Shabbos, even if it's warm. But then again, there are different opinions. Some say it should only be lukewarm and not very warm. I'm not sure what your local minhag, your local mikvah does. That's something to look into. And some say one should dafka go during Bein HaShmashot. So you accomplish it after Shkia, but you do it for, it could be some, I think, say, but dafka, it should be after it says. So I'm not sure. I'll just leave that as something to look into. But some say, but dafka, it should be after, has to be after Shkia. But some say it should dafka be during Bein HaShmashot, so it's better for Hilchas Shabbos. But some say, I think it's better for it to be after it says for Hilchas Niddah. So, but we're going to discuss what's the big deal to do it at night versus the day. So I think let's just do that right now. And Gimel, let's read this inside. Gimel. Asura litbo bayom shvi'i. Okay, it's asur for a woman to go to the mikvah during the day. Okay, we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see it inside. Yeah. Okay. ואפילו אם ממתנת מלטבול עד יום שמיני או תשיעי, אינו יכול לטבול ביום, משום סרח ביתה. Okay, so on the seventh day, we know she has her Shiva Nikim. Is she allowed to go to the mikvah on the seventh day? So we'll explain in a sec. But we just read, and the halacha is clear. She can't go on the day of the seventh. She has to wait till the nighttime. What about afterwards, the 8th day, 9th day, 10th day? Can she go during the day? Same halacha. She's not allowed to go. She always has to go at nighttime because Mishum Srach Bita, her daughter is hanging around her. Perush Davuk Habat, the daughter is attached to her. The Kurvata, and she's not always with her. Lasot Kemase, and she's emotionally attached to her mother, and she wants to follow. Generally, kids, obviously, some kids are just the opposite, but many kids they want to follow exactly like their mom, especially when they mature, a little older. Kimase ha'im, and so they want to do what their mom does. That's what my mom did. I want to do the same thing. Shetitbo bayom kamoa, and she wants to. So if she saw her mom go during the day, she's going to want to go also during the day. Velo tavchin, and she won't realize she'ima le'achar shiva tavla below b'shvi atzma. So she might see her mom go during the day. On the 8th day or 9th day, obviously, if it's the 7th day, it's the same problem. But you might think on the 7th day it's okay, but on the 8th, and it's not okay, but on the 8th day it would be okay. But the daughter is going to learn from the mom that she went during the day, and she won't realize it was the 8th day. She's only going to remember that her mom used to go during the day. So therefore, she'll learn to go during the day, and she'll go on the 7th day. Now, let me just recap and explain. If a woman is a Niddah, can she go during the day on the 7th day? So the 7 days of a Niddah, remember, is even if she's bleeding for all 7 days or not bleeding, she's a Niddah for 7 days. Makes no difference. And then after the 7th day, she can go to the mikvah. So it has nothing to do with counting. She be'etzem is a Niddah, and she has to wait. And therefore, after, because of who she is, a Niddah, she can't go to the mikvah until all those 7 days are completed. For 7 days, she's automatically Timea de Araisa. And during those 7 days of being Timea Deraisa, it doesn't help to go to the mikvah. She must go to the mikvah after the 7th day at night. But that's not our problem yet, because we are machmer like a zava. We say the woman needs shiva nakim. So let's say she waits 5 days, for example, and then she adds 7 days. It's the 12th day. So on a level of daraisa, for the Niddah, that happened 5 days ago. So for her, when she goes on the, if she were to go on the 12th day during the day, right, during the 7th of the Zayin Nakim, it would work. It would be totally fine. So that's not the problem.
And it's like third day Zion the key, theoretical.
Yeah, whatever it is. Okay. Whatever it is, during when it happens on the 12th day for us, or the 11th day for Sephardic, or some Sephardim, so then there's no issue of a nida anymore. Fine. Why? So that's not a problem going during the day. So what's the problem going during the day? Because we're machmer and we treat her like a zava, and she needs shiva nakim. Now, the halacha according to the Torah is a woman who's a zava must count shiva nakim, and can she go to the mikvah on the 7th day? 100% yes, because she only has to count 7 days, and we say mixas hayom kekulo, because it's not intrinsic on her body that she's Tamea for 7 days. She just needs to count 7 days. Okay, whatever the subtlety. But that's the halacha. For a zava, you can use mixa sayom kekulo. Once the morning of the seventh day of the Shiva Nakim happens, she can't go to the mikvah. She becomes tahora. Now she can't eat truma till the nighttime. Right? That's the first mission of brachos. She can't eat truma until tseis, but she's a tovelet yom. So therefore, that whole day she really is tahora. But what's the chashash? That during the day she'll go to the mikvah in the morning, and she's been away for her husband for, let's say, 12 days. They miss each other, and then she'll come home in the morning after going to the mikvah. The husband and wife can be together. It's dark, whatever it is. They're together during the day, and then she sees blood in the afternoon. So if you see blood during that entire day, lemafreya, it undoes her mikvah, because it's soteret during that day. It's not a new dam, it undoes the whole day. And lemafreya, she was a zava de araisa, and she was with her husband, which is kares. So that's a problem. So we never want her to go to the mikvah on the 7th day during the day, because maybe she'll be with her husband and maybe she'll see blood, and just wait till the nighttime, and then you don't have a chashash of kares. So that's what the whole problem is of her going during the day. And that's why it's important that she only goes at night. Now, Bein Niddah, Bein Zava, on the 8th day in the morning would not be a problem whatsoever. Could not be a problem. So what's the problem with going during the day on the 8th and the 9th? That's Rach Bita, because the daughter might learn to go during the day. Here, let's finish. Haga. והקלות הטובות קודם החופה יכול לטבול ביום דהלא באין אצל החתן עד הלילה. Now, what happens but for a kala, for a bride, for her first time getting married, well, she's still usher to her husband. She's not married yet. She has no husband. They're not going to be together. So a kala is allowed to go during the day, because and then they just have to, right. Aval achar chuppah, but once they get married, so then dinan kishar nashim, then they're like all women, that they can't go during the day. Okay, fine, let's stop it. So on an early chuppah,
before Shia. Before it's 9.
So it depends if it's during the 7th day of Nakim or after 7th day of Nakim. That will decide if they can be together before or after Shkia.